Okay folks, I'm back at this Marantz 2265B and I'm looking at the tuner, and part of what I was experiencing on the FM was user error, because if you look closely here you'll see we have FM and FM 25 microseconds. The first FM is normal, the second one is FM Dolby, and the second one is where our problem was being exhibited. I didn't have the front panel on when I started testing this, and I didn't realize that FM had two settings like that. Anyway, the problem is when we have it in FM 25 microsecond. And what I discovered was on the 200 board, which is our tuner, we have good signal coming out and going into what's marked as PK01. PK01 is the Dolby module. And if you notice, there's two switches in here. So let me move this so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, this dusty thing hanging here is our Dolby module. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but down inside here, and let me shine a little light in there, maybe that'll help. This lever here, if you can see where I have my finger, is actuating two micro switches that are mounted on the back. So when you push a module in, it opens the normal circuit and inserts the module into the FM tuner circuit output. So right now, if you look at my meter, it's reading 92 ohms. It should be reading closer to 0. If I actuate the switches, it opens. If I release them, it should go to almost 0 ohms, and it doesn't. Both switches are acting like this. Now you see it dancing all over the place. These contacts are gone. Now, easy solution would be just use the other FM, but I know somebody's going to have a problem with that, so I am going to bypass these switches as there is no more Dolby FM. So once I bypass these, I believe it'll take care of our tuner problem. Okay, so I bypassed one switch, and if you look at the scope, you'll see that we now have one channel working. And I'm going to use a clip lead and bypass the other one. And you see the other channel comes back. The problem is that these micro switches have most likely never been actuated. The contacts oxidized over time, and what you saw was that jittery, erratic output because of dirty contacts. You could see the meter was dancing around. There is no more Dolby FM. I'm not sure there really ever was. As far as I recall, it didn't catch on. So I'm just bypassing these. There's really no reason not to. Of course, you could just use the unit by using the other FM setting, but I know somebody would have a problem with that, and it's just easier to bypass these and be done with it. Alright, so this is something we normally don't do because we don't have the wire to do it. I'm going to demonstrate wire wrapping. Fortunately, I have a wire wrap gun that was issued to me at work, and I take my tools home with me, so I always have it in my car. The reason we rarely can reuse wire wrap is you need to have a good 1.5 to 2 inches of wire in order to utilize it. Now I'm going to turn this off while we do this, and I'll show you. Our wire wrap gun has two small holes in it. One that we feed the wire in, the other one rides on the post. And we put our wire in like this. Put it on the post we want to wrap. And we pull the trigger. It's usually a little easier than that. And that's all there is to it. And now, if we go back up and look at our oscilloscope, we have good signal on both channels. And if I change to the other FM mode, we still have it. You notice a little drop in amplitude. That is probably due to the Dolby setting, but at least now it works. That was the problem with the FM. And again, the other setting was fine. I simply didn't realize, because I don't work on a lot of Marantzes, that there are two FM settings. A lot of them have a button you depress. This one has actually two settings on the function selector. So that's what hosed me up. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm going to reinstall the Dolby module, and we will move on. Okay, so while I've been working on this, I took the time to relamp it. There were a lot of burned out dial lamps, and it looks like the only lamp that's left needing to be replaced is the stereo lamp. Now I know I have a stereo signal going in because I can cycle my generator. This is mono. This is right equals minus left. And we have lost it. This thing is in dire need of an alignment. There you go. You see that's 180 degrees out of phase. This is right only. This is left only. That's off. And that's mono. That's right equals minus left. You see the 180 degrees out of phase. So we know that we have FM stereo. However, when we look at our unit, our stereo light is not illuminated. So I've replaced all the other dial lamps. I just need to replace that when it'll be done. This thing is in dire need of an alignment, but we're going to recap everything and replace any known trouble-making semiconductors, and then we're going to go through the alignment. But it looks like everything's working now. I'm going to have to go through the front panel and check that. But I still haven't gotten the tone board out to clean all the pots on that, any switches, and that's where it stands right now. Anyway, that was the FM problem. It was on the Dolby board. Okay, so we're back with this Marantz 2265B. I cleared the one FM trouble, which was the FM Dolby setting, which you're not supposed to use anyway, but I know that somebody, if my friend sold this, would have a problem with that. It would come back, would wind up back on my bench. So I wanted to make sure that problem was fixed before I moved on. So I do get FM reception, but I don't seem to get a lot of signal strength. If you watch the signal meter as I tune, and also troubling is the fact that the FM tuning meter won't center, and I have tried to touch up the discriminator, so that's something we're going to look at. But I just want to show you the signal strength on this, and I'm going to show you how I can tell where the problem is, either in the front end or the IF board. So we turn a little volume here.
Last longer, and do you know? In Isaiah called Victory made it.
Trabajamos juntos. Logramos más.
You notice our signal strength rarely gets even up to 1, and I know there's a strong station up here coming up.
STRE.
Mañana. ¿Cómo se tenía una? Me and my friends said. Because
Exposure can make it so well for us. By the magic.
So anyway, you see we get very little signal strength. Now I'm going to show you how I determine where the problem is, and I've got a little device I whipped up you may find interesting. Okay, a year or so ago, I saw an ad on a local audio forum by a guy that was selling a couple stripped out Marantz chassis. One of them had the tuner module in it. Now, it doesn't have to be a Marantz, just so happens it is. I put the tuner module on a board here, and run leads up to my DC power supply, and this gives me an external tuner that I can use to determine whether the problem is in the tuner here or in the IF board. Now I'm going to hook this up and I'll show you what we get. Okay, so in order to hook this up, we unsolder the wires from our tuner module and take that wire and swing it over to our substitute tuner. Back in the day, they used to make TV tuner subs for this reason. It's just a lot easier to determine where your problem was. So I've got this hooked up now, and I'm going to go back and put the camera in front of the meter so you can see them. Okay, so I've got our substitute tuner connected, and I'm going to start going through the channels here and just give you the idea of how much more signal strength we get with this.
Ground is completely level. Come in again. See us win some cool prize hunts. We're hanging out until 2 o'clock, but it's all going on until 4. Bash and crafted.
To his customers.
For just $39 a month for 12 months. $39.
So you can see we're getting a lot more signal strength. Now I'm going to connect this up and show you the difference on the spectrum analyzer. You can clearly see that the outboard tuner or front end is giving us a much stronger signal than the one that's currently in the unit. So we're going to have to look at this. Let me get set up so I can show you that. Okay, before I get started on this, it's funny, I was just reviewing one of the videos and I saw around one of the buttons that is one of the inserts from the inside of the front panel. I didn't see it when I was looking at the front, but I saw it when I was looking at the video. And something else I want to bring up. I had commented on one of the videos, if you see me do something wrong, stupid, or whatever, please call me out. And I did get a message from Pack 1085. Now, if you remember, that subscriber was the kind gentleman who sold me a damaged audio analyzer so I could fix the oscillator in my distortion analyzer. And for that, he will always have my everlasting gratitude. But he brought up a good point, and it's something that I did unconsciously, but he saw me sliding this receiver around, and he said he cringed because it will scar up the soft aluminum edges of the front panel. And I try to lift them, but occasionally, and I confess sometimes I am distracted while making these videos, I don't, and apparently I was doing that. And I appreciate him bringing that to my attention. I will certainly try to be more aware of that going forward. To be fair, this unit was pretty beat up anyway, but that's no excuse. Anyway, Pack 1085, thank you so much. I know your name, but people have screen names for a reason, and just know that I appreciate your comment and I have taken it to heart. So anyway, let's continue with this video. If you'll see, I'm feeding my signal generator in an unmodulated carrier. Because if we put FM modulation on, we get something that looks like this, and it's really hard to make a measurement because we're seeing our frequency modulation. So with no FM, it's a lot easier to see our signal strength. And our marker is right there at the peak telling us it is 46.7 coming out of the tuner in the Marantz. So now I'm going to hook up our substitute tuner and let's see what we get out of that. I'm going to have to tune it into the frequency there. Let's see. I think it might be over here. You can see the FM stations rolling by. We're just looking for, that's what we're looking for. And you can see that is a much stronger signal coming in at negative 27 dB. So I'm going to go back. This is our tuner sub. This is the tuner in the unit. Quite a bit of difference in gain. I have tried to touch up the front end on this. It got a little better, but it doesn't have the sensitivity it should. I also reheated all the solder joints on the bottom of the board, which necessitates pulling the tuning pulley off. I usually mark it, pull it off, and tape it to the side of the chassis. And let me show you what I'm talking about here. I think you've seen me do this, but I will put a mark across here. I will take this off and use some duct tape to hold it taut to the side of the chassis so the tuning string doesn't come off. I'm not sure at this point what the problem is. I do want to start checking signal strength going into the front end to see if we have any problems on the board back here. It's possible. We want to eliminate all possibilities. We also may have one of the MOSFETs in the front end may be starting to get weak. Now, one of the problems with replacing them is I can find the right part number, but they specify a particular gain rank, in the manual. Now, gain ranking is usually the suffix character letter, and it'll tell you what range of gain that particular semiconductor will have. Transistors have them, FETs have them, and you want to match that up. You want the same amount of range of gain. So I don't know if that's what the problem is in this. I'm going to have to take a closer look, but right now that's where it stands. You can see clearly that there's quite a bit of difference between my test tuning module here and the front end here. So that's something I'm going to have to take a look at. I just wanted to show you this. Again, it doesn't have to be a Marantz. Any kind of front end you can get out of a, could be a cheap receiver. You got it found on the side of the road for that matter. Doesn't have to be a Marantz. Just happened to be because I had bought some carcasses for parts. All right, so I'm going to stop this right here. I may add on to this. Or not. Okay, so I have decided to add a little bit more onto this video. I wanted to give you an idea of what I'm doing signal-wise. So I'm coming out of my RF generator here, and I'm going into a box I made up, which is the L network. This allows me to match 50 ohms to the 75 ohms for the antenna. Now let me just move this over a little bit, because I want you to see that I actually have the output teed off so I can feed our substitute tuner through here, and also the other end, which is going to the back of the Marantz for testing purposes. Now, having two of them connected at once will give you a bit of loss, but since they're both being fed simultaneously and we're not looking for an absolute measurement, we are looking for a comparison, and it does that task admirably. Now, I did also check by injecting signal from the generator directly in to the input of our front end. There's definitely a problem in here, and I believe I am going to buy the FETs I found. I hope the gain is going to be close enough. Really have no way of knowing. But right now it does need a little something. It works, but it doesn't work as well as it should. And I think we demonstrated that. Now I also want to show you, this is an active RF probe. I'm using that because it won't upset the tuner. It's not a big deal looking at the output, but I have it, so I use it. It is a powered probe that is powered off this little power supply right here, and then feeds into the spectrum analyzer right here. And that's how I'm able to look at signals, both not only at the output of the front end, but also in the front end without disturbing it too much. It's a very low capacitance probe. And that's important when you're poking around in the front end of a tuner. So anyway, I have had comments that I have a lot of test equipment, and I confess I do. It's a bit of a problem. I like test equipment. I used to actually be in the test equipment business, and I'm able to buy things I could only dream about before. I have a little more disposable income, and this stuff has gotten cheaper over time. The other thing that happened is a lot of this stuff came from a liquidator that I met who is local to me and had liquidated large corporations such as Motorola, who had lots of test equipment. Now, this is both a good and bad thing. This is the equivalent of your crack dealer moving in next door to you in my case. I bought way more stuff than I needed. I justified it because I want to have a fully equipped bench before I retire. And I certainly have a fully equipped bench. So I'm going to have to put this series on hold until those FETs come in. In the meantime, there's a couple of videos I'm going to make since people have pointed out I have a lot of test equipment. I'm going to go to Harbor Freight and buy one of those $5 digital multimeters that they sell. And I'm going to attempt to fix something using nothing but that. This will be a bit of a challenge, but it's what life's all about. The other thing I want to do is there's been some interest in a series on the basics of electronics, and I want to start doing that. I think that'll be good both for viewers who are just getting started on the path, and frankly it'll be good for me. It'll have me review things, and I'll probably catch a few things that maybe I was asleep in class that day. Anyhow, I'm going to stop this video now. We will come back to this Marantz when the FETs come in and I replace them in the tuner. It's either going to make it better or worse because, again, I don't know what the gain ranking is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I like giving back to the community that's given me so much. Thanks a lot, folks. I hope you all have a great day.